What's good, everybody? It's your boy Everton, and as you can tell by the title of the video, I went ahead and bought the iPhone 10, and the reason I bought the device was because I felt for the first time in a long time Apple gave us something that was innovative in design that could really compete with its Android counterparts. And I ditched my Note 8 for about 1 week to see if I could really make the transition from Android to iOS, and this is basically my experience. So I'm not gonna talk about the things that I willingly gave up and knowingly gave up going into this purchase decision, going from Samsung to Apple. So let's talk about the design of this guy. I really like the design and how I felt in the hand, although it was a little bit top heavy, which I attribute to all those sensors and the cameras, but the top notch, let's talk about that. I actually loved it. It gave me the phone a certain distinction, and on certain apps like the messaging app and Instagram, it added an oddly cohesive style. The back of the phone was not my cup of tea though, especially that hump and the vertical form factor. I think I could have lived with it if it was just vertical, if the lens were a little bit flush with the body, but right now it just looked kind of out of place and kind of janky. The screen is really better on the iPhone 10, and I actually liked it better than the Note 8 because of outdoor visibility. I just felt like it was a little bit more seamless in how it handled outdoor lighting conditions, whereas opposed to the Samsung where it kind of overblows its colors to be able to handle the lighting conditions. I also like the more natural tones. I think that it just looks a little bit better than Samsung's oversaturated look, but it needs to be done correctly, which iPhone definitely did a good job on. Now let's talk about navigating the operating system and all those gestures. It's a kind of a mixed bag because I don't like 90% of the gestures, and it's kind of obvious that when Apple said that their vision for a phone was an all-screen display, that was a damn lie. 90% of these gestures do not seem natural at all. Swiping from the bottom of the screen, or no matter what orientation it's in to get to the home, that felt kind of natural. Everything else, like getting to the control center, just everything else just felt kind of weird and out of place and unintuitive. And I believe that you can get used to it over time, but it's just something that in my subconscious I hated the entire time. Now iOS is fast and it really doesn't lag a lot, but it doesn't come without its bugs. I mean, there were apps from well-established companies that kept on force closing, and one app just froze and I had to force close that app in order just to get to work again. So it happens on both platforms, but I think it's just mentioned on Android a little bit more, and we don't hear about it as much on iOS. Also, some of Apple's native apps are really top function heavy, which really throws it off from being a one-handed use. Like the messaging app, when you open it up and you want to create a message, you have to kind of shimmy your hand up there and hit the top to create a message. Apple put it down here. It makes a lot more sense. Coming from being an Android user, which is mostly kind of like a full desktop, I find it really frustrating not to be able to kind of download music from the internet if an artist releases a song and just store it locally. I either had to buy it through iTunes or basically use a workaround through my laptop. Now the things that I do appreciate on this device are them speakers though. The experience was like booming. The media experience was amazing. It was rich and full. I did wish it had more bass, but it's miles ahead of what anything that Samsung is able to offer with that one mono speaker. Even though there are a few apps where I think they're top heavy and they should have done the function buttons at the bottom, overall the apps are on an entirely different level than anything I was able to find on Android. I mean, they look artsy, they look beautiful, and they just look really clean, and it kind of gives you a glimpse of what like the possibility of a smartphone can actually do. Now let's talk about the camera. The camera to me was amazing. Now Samsung is no slouch, but this camera on the iPhone, the image processing and the stabilization is just amazing. Also the selfie mode and that portrait mode. Now to me, it's better than anything that Samsung has, but it's not perfect, and it has struggles a little bit with cutting around the edges, but it's way better than the Note 8s, and I will give it to that any day. So Face ID I left for last because I felt like it worked all the time, but it has some restrictions. Now, it doesn't work when you're vertical, and it doesn't work if you have Ray-Ban sunglasses that I have on, but I still would have preferred like a rear place finger sensor if you want to go with the all-screen display. It just makes it a little bit more easier for a backup for, sometimes when you get those middle of the night texts from you up from you know who. At the end of the day, the phone is fast and there's still a little bit of a learning curve. So am I keeping it? Nah, and it's for a few reasons, and some of them are Apple's fault and some of them aren't. The phone is a platform for what this phone should be able to do, and Apple's even come out and said that there are things that this phone is able to do in a year that it's not able to do now. And that's fine, but put the phone on sale a year from now. I think that this is a platform that wasn't really ready to be released yet, and for $1,200 for the 256 gigabyte version, it's really something that I feel like it should be ready. Now the animojis are cool and they're fun, but after the second time I use them, it became really old. And also the animojis don't work well at all. in low light sensors. So you won't actually be able to have any club emoji emojis or bedtime emojis or late night emojis or movie theater emojis. The other main reason is that like the gestures just felt unintuitive to me. I mean, I can get used to it, but obviously, I mean, in my back of my mind, I'm going to hate it the entire time. And app optimization was not good for me. So a lot of developers are creating apps to take advantage of the full screen display, but I would not give Android or Samsung a pass if they didn't have a backup, which they do, to kind of expand it. Even though it is a little bit quirky sometimes, I mean, these gestures are quirky. So there should be out the box some type of workaround so that I can either expand these apps, because all it is a vertical expansion to show more information. And I think that Apple should have done a better job at addressing this if you're going to release a new form factor. But lastly, and the most important reason why I'm not keeping this device and I'm going back to the Note 8 is because of Google's integration with the Note 8 and all of its Android devices. So I'll schedule an appointment with my barber, and 30 minutes before the appointment, I'll get a notification on both phones. On the iPhone 10, I'll get a notification that says, hey, you have an appointment with Tony for a haircut in 30 minutes. On the Android or the Note 8, it'll tell me, hey, you have an appointment in 30 minutes and you need to leave by this time in order to get there on time based on current traffic conditions. And that's what makes the difference for me. Google really makes my life easier. And the integration with that more than anything is what led me to say, hey, you know what? I really want to go back to my Note 8 and just the Android platform overall. There are definitely benefits to having the iPhone 10. It has an amazing camera. The OS is very speedy as to where the Note 8 can sometimes be. It can sometimes slow down just a tad bit and you can notice it. Overall, it's just Google's integration and the familiarity of the operating system, which leads me to go back. Once this gets ready, I might go back into it a year from now and say, hey, I really like this device, I'm gonna give it a try, but for now, it's a platform that I'm not willing to spend $1,200 on to wait a year for its full functionality. All right, guys, well, that's been my experience. If you guys liked the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe if you loved it. Until next time, stay practical. Peace.